Hello, folks. Welcome to Between Awesome and Disaster. This is your host, Will Carey. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you being here as always. This is a fun episode of the show today. I literally, as I'm recording this, my guest just left a couple of hours ago. My guest on the show today is comedian Rojo Perez. Rojo I met when I had first moved to New York City, and I would see him around. And he's always been like just incredibly funny. He always makes me laugh every time I see him. So it was really great to get to sit down and chat with him because I hadn't seen him in a while. He's been on the road a lot this year, which I am thrilled to hear about because like so many other comedians that I knew and I was the same way as well. We were all just kind of in it together. Like we were going to mics and trying to find any stage time we could get, and it was really great to get to sit down and chat with Rojo. And we talked about a lot of stuff. If you have not heard of Rojo, he has been on Conan. He was on MTV's Decoded. We talked a lot about the process of crafting a late night set, specifically his first set for Conan, and we talk about his upbringing in Puerto Rico. And we had a really great chat. This is the kind of like comedian shop talking that has some really hilarious stories as during this conversation. So this is something I'm very excited to get to share with you guys. If you enjoy this and you think you know somebody who might also be interested in this in a podcast like this, you can let them know we are available wherever you listen to your on-demand audio programs. We're available on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify. Everything else, there's probably some that I haven't heard of as well, but those are the big three that I know. And thank you guys very much for being here and for checking out my show. I sincerely appreciate it. And let's go to my chat with my buddy, comedian Rojo Perez. But dude, because I remember, I feel like I met you like when I first moved to New York City. I feel like you were like in my in that like whole orbit like early on when I first moved here, because I moved here in 2010, so I'm coming up on 10 years almost.
Okay. Yeah.
And wait, how long have you been here?
I probably got here. I got here April 08. So yeah, it was
okay, so a little bit
a year and a half
me.
maybe.
Yeah, and like I was saying before we started, like I feel like everybody, like I was, if to use like the overused term there, if our peer group collectively, because it's a huge city and there's lots of comedians, but I feel like there's a certain point where you're like with a lot of the same people for a really long time, and you're all kind of doing the same stuff, having the same experiences, got the same hopes and dreams. Nobody knows how the industry works whatsoever.
Nobody knows that what is industry.
Exactly.
You just hear that word like
It's just
you hear industry like Charlie's Angel. Like nobody's ever seen Charlie. We don't know.
Right.
But it exists in this aura, and we're just around waiting for the phone call. They'll be like, "Hey, you need me?"
100%.
Like,
yeah, and you're just like, yeah, you're just waiting for the phone to ring, and it doesn't ring for so long.
No. Nobody has your number.
Yeah.
And nobody knows you do this. Like, nobody knows we do this to even why they would care. Like, it's such a funny... I don't know how you felt, but I definitely remember being like, and especially once you start, like, auditioning for festivals and each year people get seen younger and younger. You're like, oh, I'm about to be out of here. I'm 23. I struggled too hard already. I'm about to be gone. And then you're like, no, man, this was just a meet and greet. This was a handshake of an audition. You see so many other people who are like, sure, get in line now. Here's 4 of the other people who are really good who have never gone and done these things yet. And they've been in New York for longer and they're more seasoned and they get like that's a fun. I guess what I remember the first year I got asked to audition for Just for Laughs. And real young. I was still real young in it, and had enough stage presence that felt like jokes. You know that
you got the charisma and performance skills can make up for like if the
lack of it. Yeah, because the material is just very Of course, it was like
totally.
me 3 years in, maybe 4 at most. And like I remember first audition going well, and I was like, and like enough that the people from the festival called me, and was like, hey, don't, just in case anybody asks, don't sign with anybody. Do me this favor. So it seemed like, oh yeah, they really like me.
Yeah.
Second one went well. Then the third one, which is the final one, back then they still did 3. It was at a club called CB's, right around the corner from McDougal.
Yeah. Oh, yep. I remember that place.
And I proceed. I mean, I couldn't have caught a hotter bomb. This was woo, spicy hot bomb. This shit was crazy. But I remember, like, in the moment, like before that, you're like, oh, I'm out here, I'm gone, dude.
Yeah,
because you start believing the shit. You start believing you are actually good.
Right. Yeah.
And, like, you start being like, oh, maybe I am. Maybe this is. I'm about to. And then I remember that audition, and Dan Soder was still auditioning. And you're like, we're not even. And then I saw Soder, and Soder annihilates because obviously he's a real seasoned comedian at that point.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Look at this is crazy that we're on the same show right now, competing, or quote unquote competing for the same thing. We're like, why'd you even put me in? Wasn't fair. Send me back to the minors. Let me go back down for a while and do some bar shows for a couple weeks. Let me just hit the bat that way.
Yeah, let me do like the punk scene.
Yeah, let me do that for a while.
Before I like try to headline.
I ain't ready. Yeah, I wasn't ready for something like, but it's stuff like that that's always funny to me.
The closest moment I've had, I've never been asked to audition for Just for Laughs, but the closest I ever got was when I was still living in Baltimore. Closest like call with the industry I've ever had was when I was still living in Baltimore. And they were doing, this is when the stand-up, NBC Stand-Up for Diversity auditions, and this was when
they still called it Stand-Up for Diversity.
Yeah, this was back when either the culture didn't think or I didn't think that it would be fucked up to go audition for that as a white guy. But fair. You know, we all got there at like midnight to wait in line.
And I respect you waited in line
in that like very first, like I think at 8 a.m. or something like that.
And this is Baltimore?
This is Baltimore,
which is a scary overnight.
I was with a group.
Okay,
I was with a group. So, and we weren't we weren't falling asleep.
Where was that? Magoobies?
No, this was the Baltimore Comedy Factory.
Okay,
the old location down.
I've only been
to
the
Inner Harbor.
Yeah, I've only been to the one at the hotel.
Right. So the old one. So the old one used to be second floor near the Inner Harbor. I can't remember the exact address.
Okay.
But that was where the old location was, and you know we were all just waiting there, and I was like one of a few people that got called to go for the afternoon auditions, and I was very excited. And then I show up, and it's like the established Baltimore comics, like all the comics that you see headline like they'll like feature at Magoobies or like headline a off weekend, like all the comics where you're like, why isn't that guy fucking famous?
Yeah. Why aren't you out of here already?
Yeah, or why isn't that guy like one of those guys? Because there's like maybe 2 or 3 comics that I think just headline all the time and make their living on the road still in 2020, but no one's ever heard of them. That exists for like 3 people, I think. And I was hanging with all those guys, and I was like, oh. And I was half delusional from being so tired. And I was like, "Oh, this is not happening for me."
Yeah.
So I'll just go up and tell the last jokes that I didn't tell at the first one, and
see where we go from there.
See where we go. But they were nice enough to call and say I didn't get it. But
oh, that's nice.
You know,
I mean, it's a good look. It's a good impression.
100%. And then I remember hitting a point where I was like, I remember starting to be at a point where I was like, if I could get like one unpaid like spot at New York Comedy Club a month, I'd feel like I had made it. Like
you're taking steps up.
The bars just got lower and lower.
They're the two quick ones.
Sure.
The one time I did that club in Baltimore. The
Comedy Factory or Magoobies?
Comedy Factory.
Okay.
Where it is now. So at this. It's in a hotel, and it's pretty much what would be I guess like a huge conference room.
Sure.
It turned into the club space.
Yeah, gotcha. Yep.
But you're staying at the hotel. And there's nothing around this shit. Like, there is nothing. This is the only thing there.
Yeah, and knowing Baltimore, you can't walk to anything.
I found one bar that was walking distance, being like, and it was, people were like, well, I think there's something up this way if you want to chance it. And I was like, all right, let's go. And I go,
Sure.
and I show up, and this is, I mean, it's like record scratch when I walk in. It is very, we've never seen you, how'd you find us type energy.
Sure.
And because it seems super local. Like, you have to go way out of your way to find that bar.
Right.
So I walk in, and I was just like trying to mind my business, go over there, drink, and they had a raffle for breast cancer awareness, right? I think it was like a 50-50 or something like that.
Yeah.
And they called it money for them titties. And it's the funniest thing, the funniest rap I've ever seen. Never seen somebody fuck up something nice so bad. Like,
right. But knowing where I lived for so long, I that makes perfect sense.
I love that.
That's what
I cracked up.
The breast cancer thing was like the testicular cancer. I would love to see that slogan as
let them hang
like
low,
balling for balls, or something like that. And you had
the first year I auditioned for Stand Up for Diversity. Not maybe second, something like that. I decided I want to go out to Chicago to audition. I go, me and the Lucas brothers.
Yeah.
We drive to Chicago. We do some local shows the night before. We're gonna stay a couple nights, and we do the line. Like, there was no favors. This was the same way. Wait in line. We're there. And everybody's like, and it was like Chicago fucking comics who are like, they know each other, and everybody's in line, and eventually they just start roasting each other.
Sure.
And me and the Lucas brothers are just so quiet because they're like, man, I can't get.
Yeah.
Like, you know, neither me or them, we're not that type of comedian of just shitting
totally
on
not.
each other.
Yeah.
But also at that time, I wouldn't even know how to do it.
Right.
So you're just like, please don't even look this way. It's a terrifying moment. We do the audition. They get a call back, and I thought I had done well, and I looked through the list. My name's not on the list. They have to come back in the afternoon, and we're still there another night. So I was like, whatever. I'm kind of angry. I was like, fuck, you drove all the way. Like, you're all the way out here, and whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go drink. I get a call from the people from Stand Up NBC, and they go, so we think we made a mistake. And I was like, what happened? And they were like, somebody one of the judges when you were on stage was like, oh, he kind of looks like Mark Ruffalo. And they wrote Mark Ruffalo on the callback sheet. so everybody's looking at the sheet and like, also, who the fuck is Mark Ruffalo? He has the same name as the regular guy we all know.
Right.
And I didn't even, like, obviously I'd never thought I looked like him, so I didn't even, I'm half in the bag now.
Sure.
And they're like, can you come make this one later? And I was like, yeah, I guess. And I make the showcase that year, but I genuinely think I make the showcase out of pity.
Sure.
Out of them being like, this is our fuck up. This is clearly, but eventually I did get it, and I love everybody over at NBC.
Oh, that's
Let's
great.
not make that story like that.
No, that's a great way to get to a good place.
Yeah.
Because eventually, what I ended up was, and that's why I'm doing a podcast, is like, okay, if I could just create some value, if I can create value for myself, that maybe that'll be appealing to people eventually. Where I could do like my own thing, do like the. Because I just and something else that I think really like hurt my heart was, you know, eventually you get to like, oh, okay, I'll do like the DIY rooms, like the alt scene, and then you ask someone who I know is my friend and is very nice, and you get told that you need credits to be on the show.
To be on a free show.
To be on a free show, and I'm like, oh, okay, I get it, but it still fucking hurts.
Yeah, I mean, I do understand the idea. But I also think there's like 5 comedians in New York people get excited to go see.
Yeah,
like
I agree.
All, like not club comics, like bar show, like.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 of them run a show together, and Aparna and Joe.
Uh-huh.
So now we're gonna live in 3 for the rest of the, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
so
no,
So
totally.
even those 2 are like, you can see them every week Monday.
Right.
So you don't have to come see them at another show they're booked on.
Yeah, totally.
You know that. So it's just like, so nobody, like, I don't know anybody who really comes out when they see like a name or a credit. Like, I guess credits are always, it's nice to like put on a thing, but you're just like, I don't know, motherfucker, trust me. Do you trust me? Then the show will be funny.
Yeah.
I don't know what else. Like, if I trust the host or the producer of the show,
Sure.
then the show should be good.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
no matter what credits they have, you still haven't heard of them. So it doesn't, like, it doesn't matter then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, 100%. It's like let's not have any illusions about what's going on here. Everyone on this bill needs the stage time, and you need something to do for an hour to an hour and a half because you don't have any money because New York is on occasion a dystopian capitalist nightmare. So let's just have a moment for this hour and a half, and then let's go about our separate ways.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I still for as much as I talk about how these shitty experiences, I still love being on stage.
Oh, yeah.
It's the best.
Yeah. I'm dying. My phone rings right now. I'll cut this halfway through. If somebody goes, hey, can you be here at 7:15? I'm like, yeah.
And I would understand completely.
We're taking this to go.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
coming with. We're doing a portable one.
That would be amazing. And you could tell them I wouldn't need a spot. I'll just do it on the train because I understand. But like tracing, I trying to like trace this because I love these because there's no other format where I feel comfortable asking like comics this kind of stuff. Because I want to trace this a little bit because I remember we also had a really nice, honest conversation in front of Eastville back in the day, like just randomly
After a mic.
I think maybe after a mic, or I might have been coming from somewhere else.
Okay.
In the East Village. You're originally from Puerto Rico?
Yeah,
That's where you grew up?
Yeah, I was born here in New York, but I grew up like the years that really matter. I was in Puerto Rico.
Sure, your formative years were there.
Like,
and what part?
The town's called San Sebastian, so it's like part of the northwest part of the island. I'd say like 2.5 hours from San Juan.
Okay,
So San Juan's like the same north, but the opposite east. So it's just straight across.
gotcha. And is San Sebastian at that time? I'm guessing this is like the 80s or 90s. Is it really developed, or is it still?
I grew up real like the town I was in was real country.
Yeah.
Like yeah, like it was like fields, cows, people, like it's not a weird thing to be like, you'd be like, why is there so much traffic? And you're like, well, there's a cow. Nobody knows whose cow it is, and we can't move it. Motherfuckers don't want to move, so we just kind of waiting to get by it.
Just wait out the cow.
Yeah, like I remember like walking through people's fields to like go to rivers. And like that was like, we did that more than like a beach. Like the beach was like a half an hour from us, but like we'd walk for 15, 20 minutes and we're like, oh, there's a little river, a creek or some shit like that.
Yeah. Like go throw rocks or sticks in the...
Yeah, it was like, so it was the town's small, everybody kind of knows each other. Like there'd be bars, but like at that time, like food still to this day, if you haven't eaten by 9:30, 10, you ain't eat it.
You're done.
Yeah, that's it. You better find a
time.
bakery and get some bread and like ham and cheese, because that's all
you're getting.
Yeah. The downtown, kind of the quote unquote downtown, shuts down when people leave work at 5. Like, you know what I mean? So it is.
Oh, I absolutely know what you mean.
Yeah.
That's that is not too dissimilar to the way I grew up. In rural southern Maryland, like on the I guess the west side of the Chesapeake Bay.
Okay.
I might have said this on a recent episode, but I'm working on a joke about. I learned recently that where I grew up in St. Leonard, Maryland, for my formative years, because after my grandfather passed, we moved into his old house. got some thoughts on that.
Okay.
But I learned recently that always thought I was like a small town kind of person. That was like my narrative. But St. Leonard isn't actually technically a town.
Okay.
It's called a census designated place. So it is just a large enough group of people that they're keeping track.
Yeah, but not large enough that we have to give you a real name.
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. And like,
so where do you vote?
uh,
Would they go?
They
would you
would-
go to a town over? I guess.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably either a firehouse, which would be all volunteer down there. There's no paid fire services down there, or like an elementary school or the closest school is probably where you'd vote. If I had to guess. And then like, no food delivery is going there. Like when I got to college and was like, they'll come to the dorm and bring me food. Holy shit.
Man, we didn't have we didn't have street, like it wasn't streets. Like,
it was like completely unpaved.
It's just it's paved. No, it's paved, but it's not I can't go 14th and 30 or like, if I try to tell you my house, I have to go street number 447, kilometer 3.8. And you just gotta hope like, but there's no signs.
Right. It's like look for if you hit.
So that's how you had to do it.
You go too far.
Man, yeah, we would have. There was like this huge like old man bar. The old men and divorcees would go and just wear their tightest clothes and dance their heart out on Friday and Saturday. Man, these ladies you would have thought these were quinceañeras. Like this shit was. But these were like women, like grown women and old dudes.
Yeah.
But that was like the spot. I was like, hey, do you know where this? And everybody knew because it was so old in town. And I'd be like, when you get there, make a right. And just go, and then I'll be outside. Call me. I'll kind of like, I'll hover. You'll see.
Sure.
But that's really like the only way. Like, I still can't really describe to someone how to get to my mom's house. Like, that place shut down, so there is no more landmark.
Right.
So I just gotta hope.
You just have to drive a certain distance and then start shouting her name, and maybe you'll get lucky.
Man, we can't even figure out PIN right on phones. Yeah.
Right. Right. And what did your folks do? Like growing up in this kind of like rural country.
My dad, this is really fun. My mom was a secretary, and she worked at a hospice.
So like people on their way out.
Yeah. So like instead of you guys. Yeah. So it's the idea of nurses going to visit people at their homes. So she was one of the secretary at this company who like tracked everybody who was going where, that job, payments, that stuff. So she worked there for my whole life growing up. And my dad, this people think it's fake. My dad had a wood rental business.
Wood rental.
So after there was a hurricane in the 90s that came and hit pretty hard, George, and that shit took out all these wooden houses because people just had homes, like still wooden homes, like it wasn't all in cement.
Right.
So after that, when people started now building in cement, to do a house in cement, you need the wood to set the framework up first, and then you lay the cement and you take the wood down.
Yeah.
So instead of people just buying all this wood they would never use again, my dad had all this, and he would rent it, and then people would do the frames of the house for like they'd have the wood for like 30 days, sometimes 60, depending how big. And then when they were done, they'd call us. And me and somebody else would go and pick up the wood, put it on a truck, and then come and drop that bitch back at my dad's shop.
Yeah.
And like, dude, this was for the longest he had this business.
I love the fact that this exists because it doesn't sound fake to me at all. It sounds like a practical, a need is being filled.
Yes.
100%. For a second, I was like, because when I think of where I'm from, wood is like, because my house wasn't my grandfather's house was built as a summer cottage, so it was freezing in the winter. So you need wood for the stove, the wood stove, and I was like, that was the first place my mind was like, oh, it's hard. How do you rent wood that you're gonna burn? It's like, but you're not. So
it's 100 always, but let's see how.
So that's your life growing up is working with him.
I would work with him. I mean, he'd wake me up on the weekend if I didn't have a baseball or basketball game. I'd usually like summertime. I'd go.
Yeah.
Weekends if he needed me during school, and then in the summer. I'd wake up and work at least 4 days a week. and like that's when I realized I was like that, and I appreciate it. Like looking back, he started probably taking me when I was like 12, somewhere like that, and all the way through high school, really.
Yeah.
And he was I remember trying to ask him for a raise once.
And I'm guessing that didn't go well.
He was like, yeah, man, once you start paying for some of the stuff you eat in this house, I'll consider giving you a little more money per day. I was like, you right. Yes. You thought that one. I didn't think that one out. You right.
Fair response.
But yeah, man, I would do that. But that's like, and I'm glad, like, back then you hate it. But now, like, I'm glad I did it because I realized real early. I was like, man, I better figure out something to do in life because I'm not fucking doing this.
Right.
Like I was like I would wear gloves to pick up the wood because I didn't want to get my hands dirty. I was that kid. I've always been that kid who was like, I'm not trying to get dirty. I'm not trying to get calluses. I'm not trying to like, I don't know what it was about it. And that was like, and I learned real early. I was like, I better study. I better figure something that's indoors.
I'm kind of the same way. When I was in the Boy Scouts for a year, and being in the Boy Scouts in where I'm from basically means that you go around collecting canned goods for donations, and you cut grass at churches. That was another big activity, and you go on. And then you go on campouts with a bunch of people whose career path is military and not much else.
Okay.
And you get the shit kicked out of you if you're me. I remember once getting drafted into playing like a tackle game of football, and he was a friend of mine growing up. He was like the cool older kid, and he hit me so hard that I'd never like flown through the air backwards and tumbled before or since. And then that's when I was like, this sucks. I need to do something that either I'm not sad all day, cause I'm like, don't want to be here, or I need to do something where I can sit down all day.
Yeah.
Like to me, the office is like, people complain about, being stuck in a cube. And I'm like, it's not on your feet for 8 hours a day.
Yeah. It's people who haven't done that.
Yeah. Cause I don't know what kind of jobs you had like coming up as a comedian, but like I had probably all the same ones. I was a barback, I was a barista, I was a mover. I did all of that kind of stuff where I was just like physically gassed at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I'm like, now I got to go try to pay $5 to like go do a mic
yeah,
somewhere.
I hope you're funny right now.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, I don't miss those days.
I'm like you. I'm glad for him, but I'm glad things went differently. Did you did you think you were gonna like stay in Puerto Rico your entire life, or did you hit a point where you were wanting to head to the mainland?
Man, I wish I would have. Looking back, it was a really cool place to grow up.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time I don't think I really appreciated the way,
right,
like how lucky being a teenager in Puerto Rico is.
Yeah,
it's reckless. Yeah. Like it's just like nobody's. I got carded once in my life when I was 23. At some bar in Puerto Rico. Never from the ages of 15 on. If you were above a bar, they were serving. Dude, that's just how you were living. Like, and like beaches were always packed, and like we had this thing where there's this beach. So I went to school at a private school in a town called Aguadilla. So it's like 2 towns over. And I went to a private school because I didn't speak Spanish when we got there. My parents just like one day were like, well, we moving. and nobody consulted with me. I was just very weird. I was like, oh, bags are okay, cool. I guess we are doing this.
Right.
And they put me in a public school when I first got there, and I almost failed third grade.
Oh man.
Because I didn't understand what anybody was saying all day.
Right.
Like I would cry every morning. You would have thought a teacher was touching me. That's how much I hated having to sit in this classroom because I understood nothing.
Right, because it's all in Spanish.
It was all in Spanish, and at the time, not every teacher, like the teachers didn't really speak that well English, so I couldn't even really like navigate. And so I'm just sitting there, and like, man, nobody wants to be friends with the kid who can't talk. You know what I mean? Like,
no, I know exactly what you mean.
Like, because they had, so at home I was still reading like little kid, like so if I was in third grade, I was reading like kindergarten books. And like, my mom loves you. I love my mom. Like, it was stuff like that. So like, there's no way to be like with kids, and they were like, hey, so what's up? What do you like? And I was like, my mom loves me. I don't. This is all I know. This is as far as I've gotten in the book, dude. I don't.
And did you ever go to your parents and be like, hey, this school is in Spanish and I can't speak Spanish?
Dude, they knew. My mom, dude, I mean, she was
just like, you'll figure it out.
She was late for work the first month every day because I would be crying outside every day. I didn't want to go in. Like, she was just there, and she was like, you're going to get me fired. You need to, like, suck it up and go in the fucking classroom.
Right.
Like, that sort of thing. But eventually, I was going to fail, and they like, put me in a school. They found a private school closer to where my mom worked, 2 towns over.
Yeah.
And that was mostly English.
Okay.
But we'd like growing up, like every high school, your semester, your last year, pretty much from like, I don't know, November on, every Friday, you just leave school at 11 a.m. to go to the beach. And I mean, this was multiple schools, so we'd go to the beach, and you'd have 4 different high schools. Just, like, it's like hundreds of horned up teenagers alone at the beach on a Friday, boozing, music's blaring, everybody's having the time of their life. Then you try to get the like sand off your feet and put clothes on to go back home to look like you were at school all day. But nobody cared. Like, it was just a given that's what happens on Fridays. Like, stuff like that I didn't really appreciate till I talked to other people, and they were like, no, we didn't have any of this.
Right.
Like, what do you mean? We went to school like a normal person.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing with like where I'm from, like, you couldn't get away from school. Like, they would see you. And unless you had a car, which most of my friends did not, you weren't going anywhere. It was like a 20-minute drive if I wanted to go to my friend's house. It was like, and I had to get my mom to drive me because my dad wasn't going to do it because he was at work.
Yeah, man. I mean, I enjoy. But I always wanted to leave at that time. I remember being like, this isn't me. I always wanted to come back to the States.
And was New York the goal the whole time?
No, I don't honestly, I don't remember if it was the whole time or not. I always remember enjoying it, and I would come here some summers to visit my cousin for a little bit. Like, I would try to come see them. So I remember enjoying it, but I just remember stateside. That was really as far as I like. The schools I was considering was like, the one I went to ended up going in Florida, University of Arizona, Syracuse, and then St. John's.
And St. John's
is Queens.
Is Queens.
Syracuse, upstate New York. Arizona, obviously, U of A.
Sure.
But I mean, that's all over the place.
Yeah.
That's a spread. I had no clue.
And what were you studying?
I went to school for journalism, news media. So like, I ended up learning how to video edit and do stuff like that, but it was mostly focused on journalism.
Those are important. Those are easily transferable, like show business skills, I think.
Yeah, I think in some way I'm happy as far as structure and how to write and stuff like that. And then the video editing stuff is just just nice to know how to be able to crop something real quick and put it together.
Totally.
Uh,
And especially if you're on a show like Decoded, which is like I think very like topical, like issues based kind of show.
yeah, Francesca old show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, that was the few stuff I did for them. That was so fun because it was very. They were very because I think they were still trying to figure out their footing when I ended up doing this for the MTV.com, and I don't know why I said the MTV.com like it's prestigious.
I think you hit a certain age and you put the in front of
it just
everything.
feels right.
It's like the Facebook. There's like the MySpace.
The
those are how old my references are. I guess it would be the Snapchat or the TikTok.
Oh, TikTok terrifies me.
Me
I'm
too.
done.
I'm not for it.
I don't think I have a new app in me.
I don't either. I'm just gonna be like, okay, if you're gonna hear of anything I do, it's gonna be Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Dude.
That's all I got in me.
I was we'll jump back real quick, but I was pitching or not pitching. We were trying to get Snapchat to buy this show, this web series idea, and we sent it in, and they were liking stuff. And my whole time, my fear was like, fuck, am I gonna have to learn Snapchat now? Like, I don't want to be on Snapchat. Like, I want the show to be there. I don't personally want to have a Snapchat account that I have to be active and checking. Like, that was stressing me. Thankfully, they passed.
It's like, yeah, I'm very new media as long as it's within my wheelhouse. If Comedy Central is not developing TikTok shows yet, I'm sure they will be shortly.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, won't say with who, but I took a meeting with somebody. They were like, yeah, we're doing like a lot of just phone stuff now, so we need to look like it's following you, like you're like POV type stuff. And it's funny because my buddy has this theory: whatever porn's doing, in a few years, it's gonna be huge mainstream. So as soon as this guy went, so we're trying to do a lot of POV shows, and I was like, man, I know where you got that. He's been preaching. He's been telling the choir for years that POV was coming.
That makes so much sense.
I think it makes sense. At first I thought he was fucking around, and the more I thought, I was like, I think you're kind of onto something here.
Yeah. Oh my God. If that makes so much sense because. Did they ever go through like a 3D phase? Because I remember when that was like the new hot thing in porn for a little while.
Man, that's. I think they just haven't. I think if VR really gets right, that's what we'll see it.
Yep. Speaking of VR, I just Amazon has this show called The Feed on Prime. That's like 10 episodes, and I think basically it's a TV show about what they're going to try to turn the world into, but the crux of the show is. This guy corrupts the feed. It's basically a Google Glasses implanted in your brain.
Okay.
And it corrupts the feed through basically a born virus.
Okay.
Because you can basically get a hologram to blow you. And you can make the hologram look like whoever you want it to be.
Yeah.
Your boss, your ex-girlfriend, you can like make revenge porn with it really easily.
Yeah.
So that's... VR, I think, is where eventually it'll be. Like Japan's already got that. I've seen some stuff where they'll like basically you put a field on and you get like a silicone.
And Japan's porn's way ahead of ours.
Yeah,
I've
spent some time in Japan. They've got like next level shit, and and it's very normal. Like I went into a sex shop in Tokyo, and the music was well lit. It was very friendly. The only weird thing was there was because it was like 7 floors, and there was like a men only and a women only floor.
Okay.
So that was the only.
But you have like Apple geniuses.
Yeah.
Like they're like, hey man, what's up?
Exactly.
What are you looking for?
Oh, 100%. Everyone's
Yeah.
super friendly. Any anime character from your favorite show you want to fuck, you can get a pillow. That kind of shit. That makes so much sense to me. Like when I started hearing about like phone shows, like is what Comedy Central was doing, I was like, you know what? Maybe I could just figure out how to record my own album someday and get an iPhone and do it like that. When you moved back to the States, was comedy at a part of the plan whatsoever, or did that happen later?
That no, excuse me. I remember. I remember watching comedy as growing up and being very interested in it. Just being like, oh, this is something I really like.
Yeah.
But it never crossed my mind that's something you could just do.
Yeah, that's
I thought these people, there was a magic like hand that like pick this person and like you can do this. You like it didn't feel like I never because we didn't grow up really with it. Like in Puerto Rico, it really wasn't a.
There's probably not much local scene.
Man, now it's nice. Now the last couple of times I go, I'll do shows there, and like now it's fun. And there's locals comics coming up and working through, and like there's a couple who are like really building a fan base, and then there's like I know one who like parlayed his stand up into like he's doing a good morning radio show every day in Puerto Rico, and like another girl who got sponsored for like to host this huge thing for Red Bull, and like so it's like little stuff is starting to like pop up, which is very dope. But back then it was just there were maybe 3 to 4 dudes who did they called it stand up. But they all had a TV show, they all had a morning radio show, and then they would take turns touring the island doing theater shows, small theater shows.
Sure.
But it wasn't like a young scene. The same dudes I saw doing it were fucking still doing it 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Like that sort of thing.
Right. That's almost like a little microcosm for the way the career path used to be. I almost think where you just do those, you'd have this little niche market and this very specific audience knows you. And no one else does, but you're big with that very specific audience.
And they make a living, but also, you have 3 jobs. You need people need to hear you every morning, see you once a week at least at your own either late night show,
where you can do like your
where you
10
can
minutes.
do like, or you can do like a little edgy, but they're all like sketches and all like laugh tracks and all this nonsense.
Sure.
And then you would once a year go and hit up some of these theaters and that was a constant rotation for years. So I remember watching stand up as a kid, teenager, probably watching like, man, there was a George Lopez special I loved. George Leguizamo's HBO ones, I wouldn't call them stand up, but there was something very interesting I loved.
John Leguizamo, I think, doesn't get enough credit for being a funny guy basically doing a theater show.
Yes.
Like I feel like the storyteller theater one solo show concept now, because of Nanette, is more people are aware of that form. But John Leguizamo, I think, was doing it before almost everybody.
And he was doing them on HBO. Which is a crazy like we can barely get Spanish people on HBO now.
Yeah.
John was doing this so early on.
Uh-huh.
Like, I think that dude, I've never had the chance to meet him. I think that motherfucker is impressive as shit. Like,
yeah, I like him. I'd love to chat with him. I bet that would be a great interview.
He's grown into a real actor.
Yeah.
Like,
he's great and stuff.
Like, now, if you go, that's the same dude from The Pest. You'd lose your fucking mind if you saw him in some stuff, and you like, it's really interesting that like, I think he'll win. Like, I think he will get he will at one point get one.
I think so. I remember seeing him in Day of the Dead. Like, he was in a zombie movie, and I was like, hey, good for you, John.
Yeah, man, he out here.
Yeah, I always love it when I see like. When I recognize comedians in non-comedic things, because that's actually the stuff that's interesting to me. That's the stuff I would want to write and make. Like, I'm not super interested in like writing modern comedy movies that get made a lot. But I love it when I see like Bob Odenkirk in Breaking Bad, or like a comedian doing something like really different and interesting, because all the skills are are there. You're forged. Not to sound pretentious, but like
no,
you
please
forge
finish this because I think I agree 100% with what you're about to say here.
Because you forge all of the skills like on the tip of a sword, basically, because you're in front of like a group of rambunctious people that you got to entertain constantly, joke to joke to joke. So I feel like you hone all of the skills from that, and they're very applicable to acting in film and specifically in like in like serious roles.
Yeah, I agree completely. I personally have not been able to translate that, but I've heard people do it very well. No, but I agree completely, especially if it's you're entertaining. Also, you need people to believe to a certain extent what you're saying.
Yeah.
On stage.
Yes.
If you don't buy this premise, odds are you're not going to follow me down the journey for the punchline.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's already some sort of an emotional connection.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think comedians do end up making pretty good overall serious actors because there's something you're used to feeling. Something you're used to finding something to feel to make this bit still feel real to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you got to take yourself to because otherwise, like you could do a bit that's on paper really solid, but if you're not putting those performance chops in, like we were talking about earlier, then it, the audience I think reads that. Mm-hmm. I know I can read that. It's like, oh, okay, you're not really into this.
Yeah.
On when I'm like watching a comic on stage sometimes, but yeah, I agree. Agree with you completely, and also I think like, because I went to school, I studied acting before I ever did comedy. So like you think about like listening and reacting, that's all stand up is. If you're headlining, and you have more experience in like road work and clubs, but it's all about like thinking and reacting to what's working, and then changing on the fly in the moment.
Yeah, I did. I think there's something. I do think there's something fun about it when you're talking and I'm not even thinking about this bit. Like sometimes there's a fun when a joke works.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say I'm doing 45. I'm 15, 20 in.
Uh-huh.
The we're having a fine time.
Yeah.
I already know. I started this joke. I know where this shit's going. I know it hits. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking about the next two bits.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to make sure this drunk idiot keeps it down. And so it's like I'm talking, but I'm like like once you're like in a good rhythm, you're like my head's all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily even thinking about this exact wording.
Sure.
And I'm fine with that. And then sometimes you're like, every joke is life or death. You're like, oh man, I need this one to work because this is getting long. This is a struggle.
My God. Yeah, exactly. I have had that moment, dude. I was on stage in Istanbul.
Oh wow.
And 10-minute set. I was able to close big, but it was the first time I'd ever gotten flop sweat. Like I just was like, I could feel my breathing increasing because I was just panicking because I was like, it is so quiet up here. And I learned later that the crowd barely understood English.
Yeah, but you're just hearing silence. That's where you're processing. I've never felt my heart beat more than sometimes when I'm on stage.
Mm-hmm.
Like day to day, I never know this. I've never been able to be like, on stage, I'll feel this shit trying to just hit. And you're like, you think they can see this? Can they see how hard this heart is pumping right now? Because feels intense. This feels terrifying right now.
Yeah, but then I feel like most of the time all the crowd sees is like, oh, the comedians make it look so effortless. It's like you're thinking of it off the top of your head. And they're just like, oh, if you only knew. And then the come down from this is I'm just gonna be back in this fucking in the hotel room upstairs.
Or you're like, I gotta do another one of these.
Yeah. And after I talk to everyone here, I have to go backstage and hope and hope that the middle or the future don't cover anything that I'm going to do or do too much crowd work, and the crowd thinks that that's what the show we're doing is.
Oh, that's always. I saw. I won't say who it was. A comedian was hosting.
Uh-huh.
I was with me and Tone Bell, and we travel a lot together. And comedian's host, and he's a young kid, and he touches on a topic, Me Too-ish topic, and the crowd immediately is like, nope, nope, next, no, like
it's like no, thank you.
But it's also was like, he looks very young, and you're like, if you're hosting, there's no real trust the audience has in you yet for you to try to get this complicated point across.
Yeah.
And I'll never, Tone went up after, and I remember at one point he goes, well, what the host was trying is, because Tone had a similar bit, but obviously more expanded. And he goes, well, I think what he was trying to say, and he threw the kid under the bus.
Yep.
But in a moment being like, I don't know, that felt weird, but also being like, yeah, motherfucker, how else are you going to learn?
Yeah.
This is how the bit should look.
No, yeah, totally.
Like,
yeah, because they always put like the most inexperienced people get to host, and yeah, you gotta. That's not what the gig is. You're not changing the world when you're the MC.
Not as an MC.
No,
you need to get people smiling, make sure they have their drinks and their chicken tenders.
Yeah,
and get everybody else's name right.
Exactly,
it really is.
Get the names right. You gotta make sure you pull the name correctly to see who gets 20% off at the end of the night. Gotta plug those exit passes at the end of the show. Oh my God, it's a very managerial kind of position.
Yeah, it is.
I wanted to ask you, because you say you're away from New York like 30 weeks out of the year now. I kind of want to. I'm always curious about with that moment from when you transition from just being an open micer to that moment where you kind of feel like you could legitimately call yourself a comedian. So I'm curious what that looked like for you. Like, did I know you did Conan, and I loved your Conan that Conan set. I'm curious how that transition went for you. Like, what were the steps?
Man, I honestly got a little lucky where I started going on the road pretty early in a comedy, like 4 years in.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough that Sean Patton, who I think is
Sean's awesome.
That motherfucker is so funny. But we got along, and I was lucky enough that he was like, hey, do you want to come do this random weekend with me? And it went fine. And he liked me enough, and he was like, come do this other one. Come to this other. And I didn't have 25, like real 25.
Yeah.
And I'm out here just taking shots to the face. I'm
Sure.
just like, you know what I mean? You're like, I'm doing enough to I'm not bombing per se, but I'm like,
you're tap dancing.
It is, yes, a lot of, and he let me grow. He let me just like, he wasn't fazed that I wasn't doing great. And like, he still went and did his killer 45 hour, whatever he was doing back then.
Yeah.
And I was like, so I got lucky in that sense where he would take me out. So I started meeting some of these managers and meeting like the names of the bookers and like early on. And then like through him, I did something, through him I did something with Conan. All three of us went on a thing. And then from there, Conan took me out on a couple dates. And now I'm doing a different energy of a room.
Yeah.
Because now you're doing his fans.
And I feel like you would line up with the Kyle Kinane fan base.
Yeah, and I thought it was fun. But it was that's just chance of luck. Like that stuff helped me grow more, because now instead of just doing a random weekend, now you're performing for people who are excited to be there.
Yeah.
And who know exactly the type of comedy they're kind of there to see in Kyle.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's geek. So now it feels like you do have 25.
Right.
Like now this shit hits because they want you to win.
Yeah.
Like that's a different energy.
They're just riding the waves.
So like that's up. So that like, and that went on for a bit, and Sean went on for a bit, and then like Tone took me out. Brad Williams started taking me out, and like stuff.
Oh, you went out with Brad?
Yeah, I love Brad. Yeah.
I think he's very funny.
And Brad has always been great with me and like stuff like so. It's been lucky, but I mean, I don't. It was pre. I was like, I think I was. Man, it might have been that summer. I had just quit my job, or maybe the summer before.
Uh-huh.
And I was just scraping by, like doing enough
Uh-huh.
road stuff, but just scraping by to like
Yeah.
pay bills, and then like, and the Conan thing helped. Obviously, helped just something to put on the flyer.
Mm-hmm.
So now that helped to be like, well, come feature the weekend, but come a night early and headline
Uh-huh.
the Wednesday.
Yep.
So I'll give you. So now you're making a couple extra $100
Sure.
on a Wednesday, and then you do the straight run, and then now you're like the club starts seeing you can do 45,
Mm-hmm.
or like, and that. So it was like little stuff like that, just trying to positioning. But it's been like, but that's what I'm saying. Like it was just luck that, not luck. You hope not all luck, but like it was chance that Sean gravitated towards me and not somebody else at the time, and I started getting road stuff with him.
Mm-hmm.
Without ever having to really go through the process of, like, I'll do all the funny bones, and I never auditioned for him.
Mm-hmm.
It was by chance. I think Sean took me to one. They liked me. Word got back to him. I got another random weekend, did well,
Yeah.
and then he was just like, send in avails.
Uh-huh.
And that, you know what I mean? It was
Oh,
sort
yeah.
of like chance. So it's like that for me was I don't know how other people, but that for me was kind of how
Yeah.
it happened.
Yeah, that's a big part of it, and that I think drives a lot of newer people crazy, because the random aspect of it seems
Yeah.
so uncontrollable.
But there's also like, I think the fact that like understanding how to travel. Are
Mhm.
you staying out of the headliner's way?
Yeah.
Are you like, especially if it's somebody you don't really know well, like the
Sure.
courtesy of going, hey, is there anything you don't want me to talk about?
Mm-hmm.
Most headliners will never say. They'll be like, no, do you?
Yep.
Don't worry about it. Then once or twice you'll have somebody who's like, don't do this. You're like,
Sure.
all right, whatever. But you do, but then respect what they ask you not to
Yeah.
do. Like tip the staff. Don't
Mhm.
be hammered. Like don't run the light. Like it's little shit that like
Yep.
you should understand how to do before you get there. Like that.
Yeah.
Like it's sure funny is a big part of it. Are you
Mhm.
good? But there's we're all funny in the sense, in the great,
Yeah.
like there's a lot of funny people.
Yes, there absolutely is. There's lots of people who can crush for 20-25
Yeah,
minutes for
sure.
that, for
And
that
like
middle spot.
But what do you? So what else are you doing? Like how do you handle yourself? Are you like, are you talking a bit? Are you friendly? Are you super blue? Are you like, hey, thank you for the weekend. Thanks for all this. Like it's. Are you not trashing the fucking condo
Mm-hmm.
or the hotel room? You're like stuff like that's just like, and that's stories I've heard of people being like why they don't work some places, and I've heard being like, oh, this person came in, did X, Y, or Z, and you're like
It seems
it's
so
crazy.
basic. Seems so basic. Seems like
Yeah.
very like baseline. Like,
But if there's one thing about comedians is they're not great with basics.
right.
They're not great with human social interact. Like I wrote it jokingly, but I was like, I would never teach a comedy class, but I would fucking teach a male comedian etiquette class in a heartbeat. My man, I would do that so fast.
Oh my god, I would be a guest lecturer.
Man.
At that. If you ever did that class, I would drop in so quickly.
Did you walk into a room and just sit there and not say a word to anyone? Say hello. I
Uh-huh.
don't care how fucking socially awkward you are. We're gonna see each other every night for probably 10 years.
Yep.
Motherfucker, say hello.
Uh-huh.
Say excuse me. Say thank you. Like it's little shit that's
Yeah.
just like and it sounds like for me and you as adults,
Uh-huh.
they're like, this seems how do you not know this?
Mm-hmm.
And you'd be shocked how many comedians
I
and
know.
you know, and you've
I
seen
know. And I have been that person myself, and then had to turn my life around basically, and then I realized, oh, this is better.
Yeah.
This is a lot better.
Man, I remember a comedian who we were all coming up, and everybody be like, oh, he's super social. Oh, don't get angry. He's just like, he's just an awkward dude. And I was like, is he? Because when a headliner walks in, this motherfucker's the friendliest dude I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
How's he socially awkward with me because I have no career? But when somebody else he thinks they can help him. This fucker's cracking jokes. He's smiling. He's Tom Cruise on Oprah. The motherfucker's just hot. You know what I mean?
I do.
And I'm like, how is that possible? No, so don't tell me you don't know how to be a person.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I've seen you turn it on. I'm not asking. We don't need to be friends, but be a human. Like, hey, dude. Hey, that's it. That's it.
How's it going?
Excuse me.
Hey,
oh,
dude,
my bad.
How's it been? It's like, oh, I apologize. I didn't see you there. My mistake.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's shit like that, dude.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's so much.
Oh my God. This is like $1 million book deal you just came up with.
This is male comedian etiquette class.
Yeah. I feel like there's a real demand for that. I bet I know because I once had like the best tweet I ever had. I posted, and it's based off a true story. How to make an open mic better. Get someone not involved with comedy who has to wear a suit to work, get them to come to the mic with you, sit in the back, and just not talk to anyone and just jot notes. 96% of that mic will try harder.
Yeah.
and Rebecca Trent from the Creek was like, I'll volunteer. I'll put on a disguise. So I feel like she would be on for this idea.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. It's like 3 p.m. at the Creek. It's not too early, but it's early for you fuckers.
Just enough, guys. Just keep it together long enough.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask you real quick before we get out. What was the process of putting together your Conan set? Did you have, and not in the like, how did you get asked to do it, but the artistic side of it? Like, did you have a 5-minute set that you thought would be good for late night, and then you worked on it with them, or were you basically like, this joke I think would be good, this joke I think would be good, and you built it once they were interested?
At first, it was, yes, I sent, they reached out through whatever way. And they asked, hey, I heard you're in LA, the booker. Like, I heard you're in LA, I'm unfortunately out of town, but feel free to send me a 5. So I sent them a 5, and it's all obviously a little different for everybody. Like, the booker, Conan's been there so long. His process, he has fun. Like, he doesn't really have to go through the show producer and Conan anymore. Like, they trust him, so he's kind of in the spot. Whereas more like some of the newer people who are booking the other ones, they still have a very tight process of like word for word. This is how it has to. This is what you're saying. This is like the structure, and they still need approval from producers and from the host and like all that stuff.
Sure.
So my experience was with the booker for Conan. He reached out, email, hey, if you send me a 5. I sent them something, and he goes, I like this. I like this. I don't like this. I like that. You can maybe even cut some of this. And he goes, okay, keep sending. And then at that time, I was like, hey, I'll keep sending you. He was like, send me more stuff. And I was like, do you need video? Because it's so hard to get a video.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's such a hassle. And, it's such a hassle to try to find somewhere to set up and hope everything just hits right. And, like, nobody stand in front of it and all, like, where you're stressed out about the stupid camera phone or whatever, and you're not, like, thinking about the set.
Yeah.
So after he thankfully, he was like, I've already seen what you do I see your vibe on stage. Just send me audio. Don't worry about it. And then I just started sending individual jokes. And I'd be like, hey man, I got this thing. And he was like, send it, let me see, send it over. And he was like, well, you can't say that. Or he'd be like, oh, I really like that. And then our big hang up was the opener. At the time, I didn't know how to open. Right. Like, I didn't have something quick and fun to open with.
Right.
So the set was I think at the time the set was like 4:30, and he was like, we can do it this way, but also, is there anything punchy, quick? Yeah, because lots of like I think Joel Kim Booster had a similar, like one of those jokes where it's like, I'm
I'm blah blah blah, and I look like like I've seen a few.
Just something
real.
It's just something to be quick, just to get a reaction, to break the ice. And then I happen to just be like, I was doing this just fucking around. I was like, hey, sometimes I just open in Spanish for no reason. And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, I just start talking in Spanish. And he goes, send it over. And I sent it. He was like, he was like, that's funny. What are you saying? And I go, I literally am just saying, hello, how's everybody doing? Are we having fun tonight? There's no joke. There's nothing. But I was milking it for so long. So I'd be like, hello, how's it going? Everybody having a good night? And I'd be like, real little English. And I'd like look at my watch and like, and that was the whole bit. Dude, that's the whole bit. And he goes, can you shrink that down to like 20 seconds? I was like, yeah. You know how long 20 seconds is? I barely want to do this. But yeah. So he goes, and we have it down, and I go to LA. I happen to be in LA, and he hits me up. He goes, hey, are you going to be at this show tonight? I go, yes. He goes, great, I'm going to come. And I'm supposed to, he's like, run the 5. I want to see it.
Yeah.
Run the 5. And I run it, and it was at Ha Ha Comedy Club in the hills, in the Valley in LA. And
the was it called the Ha Ha Cafe?
It might, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Now I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So I don't know what show, it was a themed show or whatever. And I go up and I start doing it, and this lady starts talking to me in Spanish. And as I'm doing this, and I'm trying not to break so hard because I knew he's back there watching, and I can see him, and I'm doing this, and she's like tugging it, and I finally go.
It's like muy bien, too.
Yeah, it was like, and I break, and she's like, and they're having fun, and I go, lady, all I needed from you animals was 5 minutes of me talking and you laughing. That's all I needed tonight. And yet, here we are doing this shit. And the crowd's into it, and he's laughing, but the set ends up being like 7.5 clear. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so he can't do anything really he still hasn't really seen it all together in 5. So we have a good laugh about it. He's like, man, we'll figure it out. Don't worry. This is the set. 6 months go by.
Yeah.
Maybe 6-7 months. I'm in Kansas City, and he sends me a text. He goes, hey, are you in LA? Are you still in LA? And I go, no, but I'm going back Monday for my friend's birthday party, leaving Wednesday. I had no reason to go back. It was just me being like, I got some extra money, I'm gonna go waste it. So from Kansas City, going for 3 days, then I'll be back. And he goes, cool. He goes, can you do the set Tuesday? And I go, sure, man. Because I think it'd been so long since he'd seen it.
Yeah.
I go, he wants to see it again. I was like, sure, man. Do you have somewhere in mind? Or do you want me to find a spot? And he goes, Warner Brothers. Which is the best response. And I was like, oh, you mean like the
show
thing. The thing. Yeah. So I go, yeah, man, I'd love to. And he goes, let me call you back, and let me call you in a little bit. We're driving a show, and there's no I think I might be doing it, but there's no confirmation.
Right.
I get on stage. I get off. I have a missed call, voicemail from him. Hey, dude, call me back when you get. I call. It goes to voicemail. This is Friday. Hear nothing Friday. Hear nothing Saturday.
Oh, no.
Sunday, I got a text. And I'm running the set just in case at this club.
Yeah.
And Sunday, we're at Top Golf. Having a real stressful Sunday. And he calls and he goes, hey, how's the set going? And I go, I like it. I want to trim. I would like to add something. And he goes, what is it? And he goes, tell me it over the phone. And I tell him what the bid is. And he goes, yeah, that's funny. Okay, put it in. Was his reaction.
Right.
And he goes, all right, see you Tuesday. And it was the chillest thing ever. And then Monday, he hit me up and he was like, hey, are you running the set tonight? I was like, no, I'm going to this party, but I can. And he goes, you're good, right? I was like, yeah, I'm good. He goes, oh, fuck it. I'll see you at the party. Comes to the party, buys me a drink. We have a shot. He's like, see you tomorrow, baby. It'll be great. He leaves.
Oh, that's such like a classic Hollywood story.
So yeah, and it was so chill.
It's like, see you tomorrow, baby.
Baby,
great.
It'll be great. And he was the dopest. But yeah, it was really fun. So I do this set. I know you didn't ask me this, but I think this is a fun.
Oh, yeah.
I did a set, and at first I hear Conan laugh at the Spanish stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, fuck. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
But then the line to bail out of it doesn't hit just the way I wanted. You're in your head, but you're trying to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And you do the set, and the set goes fine. I think I saw it once. I'll never watch it again. And he walks over. And as he's walking over, he shakes my hand. He goes, well, that was different. And I'm like, this motherfucker hated it. I was like, I'm not even going to. This is crazy.
Right.
Luckily, the show ends. Chris Gethard was the second guest that night.
Oh, I love
by
Chris.
chance. Love him. And I knew Chris a
Great
little
dude.
bit. He always very friendly with me over the years. And he walks up and gives me a hug. He's like, hey, man, that was awesome. And then Conan goes, oh, you didn't hug me like that. So I give Conan a big hug. And that was like a dope moment. That to me was like, okay, we're fine.
Yeah.
Like, maybe the set didn't go how you wanted, but we're fine. Overall, this is fine. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, that's how.
That's great.
That's
a great story, man. I love it. Just the sheer Homeridian odyssey that goes in between 5 minutes of comedy on TV. I love that. I love that story. And I met Conan once. He's like the nicest guy.
Yeah, he was very chill.
Yeah, I remember telling him like, "Oh, I'm listening to your interview with Bill Hader of your podcast. I'm really enjoying it." And he got really excited to talk to me about. He was just like, "Oh yeah, that's just like how we are on the podcast. That's how we are like when we're like out having dinner, man." And I was like, "Oh, cool.
That's dope.
Cool. That's awesome, Conan.
Yeah,
it's awesome, Conan O'Brien."
I have a picture that night. Andy was very nice. Andy was like, Andy actually seemed like he enjoyed the set. I don't know if Conan did or did not, but Andy definitely was like, oh man, that line was funny. Like that was a cool thing. But as we're leaving, the first guest was from Blackish, Tracy Ellis Ross.
Okay.
And the whole time in the green room, they have like this studio, and there's 4 rooms or 5 in this huge green area space, room area. So I didn't talk to her at all. She's very so we're leaving, and I'm with somebody who kind of knows her. He goes, hey, Tracy, and she goes, hi, hey, Tone. And we're getting in the car, and we go, he just did the late night. And she was like, oh, cool. And she was like, you guys want a picture? I'm like, hell yeah, we want a picture of Tracy Ellis Ross. And then she looked at me, and she goes, with her hand, she's like, I like this. To my beard. I was like, yo, Tracy Ellis's game, dude. She's down.
Oh, that's amazing.
And that was the end of my Conan experience.
That's awesome, man. One more thing I'll ask you before we get out. This has been so great getting to chat with you, man. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad we finally were able to schedule it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. This has been great. One thing I like to ask people is, what is something you haven't created yet that you want to create? Like some people like have scripts or like albums in their or specials in their head. What's the next dream thing?
I don't know if it's next. I'd love for it to be next, but I'm not sure if it's gonna happen right away. But dude, I want to do a joint special, or like not a joint, I guess, a mixed special in the sense of I want it to be half in English, half in Spanish. But not like 30 and 30, like intertwined.
Sure.
Like one bit will be English, then just break to one bit in Spanish, back to and just have it. That's how it is. And if, like the parts there'll be subtitle, like obviously subtitle for whatever, and then whatever you get, whatever you don't, you don't.
That's really cool.
I think it's a fun, I think it can be something really fun. So I've been doing stand-up in Spanish a lot more and trying to work it out and try to get this kind of the same rhythm you'd have in in English. So that I don't know if that's going to be next, but that's kind of what I'm trying to put out into the universe.
That's a great idea.
See if it comes back.
That's a great idea. Like Netflix should be all over that because
they should.
They have so much international stand-up.
You would think they would.
Netflix is a joke on Twitter. Buy this idea
right now. I'm doing it on the low right now.
Yeah.
I'm willing to pay you guys something.
Yeah,
just to get some cameras on.
Totally. That's a very cool idea. I love watching like international stand-up. Like there's I think he's from South Korea. I've been watching his special on Netflix and just trying to finding because I've been lucky enough to perform in different countries, and I love seeing like the similarities and the differences and like the regional flavor of stand-up, like trying to get into his rhythm while also trying to find like the joke or like the different style. And this will be the last question. I don't know if
hey baby, don't worry, I got nowhere to be.
Oh, perfect. Is there any distinct difference for you from doing stand-up in English to doing stand-up in Spanish because of the way the language is? The reason I ask is because I did my Turkish set. I tried to do I had someone translate it and read it in Turkish because I was trying to do that, and I abandoned that like quickly because I couldn't get it all memorized.
Yeah.
But the way that language is, the way the sentences are structured, like the punchlines would almost be first and then the setup would be second.
Okay.
Spanish, I feel like it is formulated similar to that. Like you could say like, hi, how are you? Buenos dias, ¿cómo estás? Like it's not flipped like that. So is there a big difference for you between stand-up in English and Spanish?
I think the biggest for me personally is the slang usage.
Mm-hmm.
Of some stuff we just all know here, and I have to try to explain.
Mm-hmm.
I like this is okay. So I have a joke about a revolving door, getting stuck in one. The joke doesn't work in Spanish because the word is too long, too many syllables.
Mm-hmm.
Vuelta giratoria. Like it does, and it doesn't have, so it doesn't hit the same sort of beats you need for it. So in Spanish, I find myself explaining more. So the bit feels looser.
Mm-hmm.
Like here, we try to focus. Like you try to tighten it up as much as you can. Like have words mean something weighted. And there, I find myself being much looser because I have to over-explain a little. So I have to give you a little more backstory, and then I can jump into, like, the thing.
Sure.
But there's just bits that I can't do in Spanish and just don't make sense. Like, there's, and they're not used to punch, like, here's a punch, here's a top tag, here's a tag, here's a tag. Here, like it's more of build this all out and then the payoff.
Yeah, there's like a really long setup and then a big explosion.
Hopefully, yes. So, but then like here we're used to like I can have that payoff at the end, but I still am gonna pepper you with jokes in between this as this story's unfolding. Rather than just give you this long explanation and hope there's just one big laugh at the end.
Yeah. Do you have any like favorite comedians that perform in Spanish that are that style? Because I heard that's kind of the style in Mexico.
Yeah. I mean the dude, and I've been lucky enough. He's a homie, but this dude's blowing up right now. Now he'll actually be in New York, and I'll be opening for him in a couple weeks. So if you're hearing this and speak Spanish, come out.
Awesome. What are the days on that?
The dates are February 4.
It's in February because
February 15th and 16th.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll have this up before then.
His name's Chente Drach, and he's long form, and he has he'll hit more of jokes in between, but he does do a lot of longer form stuff, and then one huge hit you over the head at the end.
Sure.
And and people and people love it, and it's great. But that, you know what I mean. But it is a different. That's a little different. So it's like I find myself having to slow down a little.
Mm-hmm.
Cause it's like and like I also have trouble with my R's.
Mm-hmm.
So I find myself trying to find words that don't have R's.
Uh-huh.
So I'm like moving shit as it's happening. But yeah, there's just some stuff. Like I've been doing this stupid deodorant joke.
Uh-huh.
I think there's something really funny about how cocky deodorant had to be when it found out it was getting moved up to the plastic cover shelf. Like that. That's the whole premise.
I love it already.
But I think it's really dumb and funny. But I know right now I was trying to talk to my friend about this, and she's like, I can't do it because in Puerto Rico they don't have that.
Sure.
So deodorant's still trash. Like deodorant's not behind anything special. So they're like, so I told her, and she was like, shit, how bad are things in New York? And I was like, no, this is everywhere here. It's not just in New York. The states all like every state here pretty much has that. Like something like that just doesn't make sense at all to them.
Yeah, exactly, because it's
such a foreign concept.
Exactly. I love this joke. I don't know if there's I'm not going to give you a tag, but I love the idea of like the deodorant being like, yeah, think you're hot shit razors.
I'll be up. I've been trying to call it the Holy Trinity of razors, condoms, and Plan B. to be like, that's where deodorant wants to get at. Like, but it's real dumb. Yeah. But yeah, stuff like that.
They want to work their way up to like Sudafed level. That's like the Tony Soprano of the drugstore, where you're like behind the counter with an ID.
Who's asking? Oh, that's funny. Sudafed. Who's asking?
That's perfect. It's like, oh, you got an appointment. What's the password? It's like, Sudafed. Someone's here to see you. That's great, dude. That joke's awesome. Well, dude, this has been great, and I hope you get that this special gets made.
Man, if it does, I'm coming right back on here to promote it. This is where it all came from. Then.
Fuck yeah, dude. Anytime, and you're open. Those shows are in February 15th, Valentine's Day weekend.
Yeah.
In New York.
It'll be in New York. It'll be on my website, rojoperez.com. So
cool.
All my stuff will be up.
Awesome. And I'll plug that in the description, and I'll plug it I'll go to your website and look it up, man.
You're the best, buddy.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rojo.
Appreciate it.
I really appreciate it, dude. Good seeing you too. That's the kind of like really insider shop talk stand-up comedy stuff that I love talking about on this show, and I love talking about it with comedians that I respect and who I've seen like put in a lot of hard work and get rewarded for it, which is rare in this world nowadays. But it was really great to get to talk to Rojo. Thank you so much, Rojo, for your time. I really appreciate it. Check the link in the description for information for Rojo's New York City show that he was talking about. And if you guys enjoyed this show, let your friends know we are available wherever you get your podcasts. And also, if you guys would like to get a free month of Stitcher Premium when you sign up, you can get ad-free archives to a lot of great Earwolf shows, hundreds of comedy albums. And you want to support me, you can use the promo code AWESOME when you sign up at stitcher.com/premium. And that gets you a free month, and it helps me out a little bit. Also want to thank my supporter on Patreon at the awesome producer level, Mary Beth Moody. Thank you so much for your support. If you guys are interested in any of the exclusive stuff that I'm doing over on Patreon, you can check it out at patreon.com/awesomedisaster. And check out Rojo's gigs, because the guy's hilarious, and I love watching him, and I think you would as well. So thank you guys again for being here, and I will see you guys next week between Awesome and Disaster. Take care, everybody.